WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts, along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacy and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
Greetings, everyone. It's me, JR. You already heard that in the intro that played on the show just a moment ago. So let's do this real quick. I have an arc that we have been covering, which is Author Circle. It's something that we bring back ever so often to cover authors and their different books, their different style of writing, and their creative journey as an author. That's something that I really hold true to because I love the fact that people will tell a story because they will take micro parts of themselves and other things that make them who they are, and they put them in the story. And sometimes you know about it, sometimes you don't. But the great thing in technology is we have podcasts so that they can tell you about it, so that when you read the stories, it'll enhance it more for you, and it will also bring that person to be more personable to you because you can hear them and then you can see them. And then after that, you can go read the book, or you can read the book before and then listen to the podcast, whichever one works for you. Now, one thing that I need everyone to do before I talk to today's guest, listen closely to what she has to say. And then I need you to go purchase her books. She will tell you the proper way that she liked them to be purchased. But after you purchase the book, I need you to go to your state library and do something that everybody's forgotten about. And it seems every author I talk to has forgotten about this. If you can go to your state capital, take that book after you purchased it with its ISBN and request that book at the state capitol library in your state. And this is only for the US, I can't tell you anywhere else. When you do that, the library will order one of those books for every county in that state. What that does for an author, yeah, it gives them a little chump change, but it immortalizes their book in a library. I understand the fact that everything's digital and everything else, but having a book that can be archived or pulled from a library, which is a natural physical archival, is greater than that book sitting on your Kindle or sitting on your iPad. Physical books matter. And that's one thing I like to put out there for the world. And if you're digital, I understand. Or if you got to read the book some other way or have an audiobook, that's cool too. And if you're at Braille, definitely get the book in Braille and read it too. Now, the guest that I have on here today, her name is Jennifer. Jennifer Shaw. Her author name is J.M. Shaw, because there's a lot of Jennifer Shaws in the world. And the nostalgic thing we like to do on this show, Jennifer, real quick, is we like to ask, who are you and why are you here? So let's entertain this audience, and you please tell us why you're here, and thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I guess the best way to say it is I'm a creative mind that never rests. I've been a writer for 35 plus years, and I used it as an outlet. I was very introverted. I started writing. My mom bought me a typewriter because, I'm that old. And I started writing because I needed that outlet. It turned into a hobby, became a passion, and now it's just cheaper than therapy. Um, but I had never been brave enough to share anything. And then in 2019, I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD. Later on, I discovered I have dyslexia as well. But it gave me the courage to step out of my comfort zone and say, I'm going to send my first book in the series, which I just finished as a rough draft. I was going to send it to an editor, and keeping in mind that the worst they can say is it sucks. And my editor came back and said, this doesn't suck. You should publish. So 2 years later, I did. And that's how I got here.
Okay, I like that. Now, I have a son who was diagnosed with autism when he was very young. So we know that there's many different types of spectrum. So if you don't mind disclosing, because I know that's your health information, are inside of all being autistic and being on the spectrum and finding this out later on in life, which that's way different because um, you know I would almost think that it's almost a little heartbreaking to find out later on in life because it could have been things that could have been done to help you during your adolescence. Do you have any type of anger towards that, or were you glad to find out later on in life?
I definitely could have benefited from some understanding, if nothing else. I came up with my own strategies to get through life. I remember I didn't know how to talk to people, so I come up with my own strategies. I started documenting conversations to be like, okay, so and so said this. Oh, this was the reply. That there's a smile. That must be what I need to say. So I created my own script. But that was just one example of things that I used to come up with for myself. As far as learning when I was an adult, yes, it was to say it wasn't a shock would be a lie because it was a shock. I was actually diagnosed after my sons were diagnosed and realizing that those are the things you're looking for because those I've done all my life. So it was a real eye opener and it was very liberating to understand that I wasn't just an alien dropped off on this planet by mistake, that my brain just works different than everyone else.
Right? Or, like I always tell my son, your brain works the way it should,
Mm-hmm.
and our brains aren't working the way they should. We're only using 40% of our power when you all use 200%. So, after finding this out and finding out about your children, um, ADHD is something that we can go around with. People can go this way or left with that. So I don't even want to jump into that. But learning about how you're autistic, how did that help your character development and storytelling? And the reason I ask you that is this: my son was mute until he was like 2 years old. I mean, when I gave him a bottle when he was a baby, he just smiled. When he had discomfort, he frowned. He didn't even cry.
Mm-hmm.
So once he was able to say words and he was able to liberate himself from that vault of being quiet,
Mm-hmm.
he never stopped. So I seen how his character developed from a mute child to a very vibrant child. So like, you take that into your writing and character development. How did that how did you approach that?
It was pointed out to me actually, because like I said, I've been writing for so long, and I didn't find out till after I'd been writing for so long that I had autism. So I never really thought about creating characters that have autism or using my writing to express myself from a neurodivergent angle. But I had a reader point out to me that my character's journey through my Callum Walker series, it mirrors my own journey, finding where I belong and trying to figure out the whole web of society and understand social communication and those kind of things, that my series arc mirrors me. So I inadvertently wrote myself.
Whoa. And that's amazing there. Like I said, once again, using all 200% of your brain, you were able to do something with a slight bit of thought, not even using your full thought, right?
Yep.
Right. And see, that's amazing there because, like I said, I can't do that. I got to go through, I'd have to put a web out, and it would take me 5 years to write a full book. Now, right now, you're into the fifth book in this series, correct?
Yep. I just published the fourth book of my series June 1st of this year, and I'm working on my fifth. I've plotted for my sixth, but I'm also working on a side future dystopian Robin Hood meets Romeo and Juliet with hints of Hunger Games.
Whoa. So let me ask you this, and we'll just cut to the chase. In the near future, are you going to write a screenplay? Is there something that could tie you into making a series? Because it sounds like with what you've written thus far, you could have a show on Netflix. Let's not say Tubi. Let's be honest and say you could take it to Netflix and do something with it.
I wouldn't be opposed if somebody approached me from Netflix and they wanted to make a series or a movie out of what I've written. I'm a little leery about selling my work and like signing over the rights of my work and stuff. I'd want to have some input, but I'm not opposed to it. I always tell people when I write, though, I do see it as a movie in my head. I just write down what I see a lot of times. It's just me living through it in my mind. I don't have to pay for those special effects, though.
Because they're already there, right?
They are. They're probably better than anything they can produce on television.
Okay, now go to Callum Walker real quick. He's a layered character.
Mhm.
Um, how did he first come to you, and how did you change him in the series in ways you didn't expect?
So my character, I started my series basically by a what if. I'm a big what if person. So I started the series by what if fairy tales were more than stories? Monsters were flesh and blood. We just didn't know it. And I kind of ran from there. I was watching a Netflix series called Merlin, and it kind of gave me an idea. It's like, what would a young Merlin be like if he was born nowadays, before he became Merlin the magician famous? How would he be growing up, trying to, make sense of what was going on? And just being confused and trying to do the right thing and such. So my character is like a little bit of the anti-hero in the beginning, where he just would love to be just a normal guy, but he's given these gifts and he's trying to make the most of it and stuff, and he kind of gets dragged into what's going on in this magical realm. As he changes through the series, though, especially towards book 4, we see him stepping up and being less proactive and being more um, reactive to what things. He's stepping into a leadership role. He's got a purpose. He's aiming for in the right direction instead of just responding to what's going on around him.
Okay, okay. Now, as you've gone further and further in this journey with Colin, introducing challenges and themes,
Mm-hmm.
how do you keep that fresh? How do you keep that, like, because you know, like you said, you do everything effortlessly. So how do you just, because you don't use pen and paper with your thoughts like that, you just think of it. How do you just decide one day that, hey, I want to add this obstacle, I want to add this adversity to Colin's life?
I guess a lot of the inspiration comes from I, I say moments of in the zone where I'm writing and I'm like, okay, my character's just set up here. I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. And just inspiration starts flowing. Book starts writing itself, and I'll be in a spot and I'll be like, wow, that came out of my head. How did I think of that? Or he'll send me somewhere where I'm like, what is wrong with me? That came out of my head, but I rewind it and I let it go somewhere else. It goes somewhere else. It never goes to the same place twice. It's like lightning. But I'm always thinking as well. I present a lot of like mental health issues and dealing with trauma and the importance of family and friends and wholesome messages I've learned throughout my life. In an adventure setting, just putting myself in that role of how would I tell somebody and how would I feel, how would I respond, as a human being, and trying to make my characters very humanish.
Okay, okay. Now, I thank you for that part of this. Now, I'd like you to help out some aspiring authors. And the reason I want you to help them is because, you decided one day to just start writing when you were young, and you were your inspiration
Mm-hmm.
just from the get go. I mean, I know you have people that have inspired you later on, but you inspired yourself. So, one thing, especially anybody that, they're neurodivergent creatives like you,
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give to them about finding their voice and finishing their first book?
Well, I think of prime importance is to write the story that comes from your heart. Whatever you put in your rough draft is just for you. Once it gets to editing, then you can find out if you need to take it out and stuff. But just write down what you want, what you feel inside, and put it down there. Don't try to write for other people. Otherwise, it'll end up being production instead of a creative art. And that persistence is a very important tool. This is a marathon. It's not a race. You don't become heard or known or seen right away. And a lot of people give up before they reach that finish line.
Okay, okay, I like that. Now, what would be something that you like a piece of advice you would give a writer that you know now that you didn't know before?
um, I think the advice I'd probably give myself if I could go back in time, I'd probably tell myself to be a little braver and share sooner, because you don't know
Okay,
what you have unless you share it.
so true with that. And so many times, some people, they cower themselves, not imposter syndrome, but they cower down to the thought of doing something, and then they
Mhm.
regret it later. But in your case, you're able to live it, do it, and that's an amazing thing there. Now, when someone reads one of your novels and they finish it, what feeling are you trying to express to them? And let's do this in chronological order. They read book 1, 2, 3, and 4. I need emotion and how you would like them to feel after they close that cover.
I have an emotional theme for every single one of my books, and in the beginning, it was a lot about um, acceptance, accepting who you are, accepting your place in the world, and then as we go along in the series, I'm showing more the importance of trust and why it's important, and feeling that need that if you have that need to reach out to people. My poor character suffered some trauma in the third book, and then in the fourth book he has to overcome that and face his fears and stuff, and that's not something we want to do, but I'm hoping that I can demonstrate that to somebody, or even suggest if they face their fears, that they talk about it. It does help. It doesn't make it go away, but it helps.
Okay. Okay. Now, writing for you, you said it earlier, or maybe I heard it wrong. It feels like therapy to you. Is that correct?
Yes, it's like my self-care therapy. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how have you in the writing evolved in this relationship? Because where it's therapeutic, you know, over time, has it lost its ability to be therapeutic, or is it just now you know how to gauge it and control it in ways that make you feel accepted and have an emotional toll, not a toll, but an emotional clearance that you can basically see. You're like, hey, this is making me feel good. I'll enjoy it.
Yeah. If I That's what I have the one series that I'm working on, and you kind of become so in depth into that series, but you feel the need to do other things and branch out and stuff, which is why I'm working on another project. But I actually have, because find that the emotions, I have to be in a certain mood to write a certain scenes and stuff, but I actually have a document on my computer that is just scenes, just random scenes that come to me. Like I'll just write a car chase scene, or a mountain climbing scene, and I don't necessarily have the story to go along with it, but it's a scene that I want to write, and so I save those. Plus I'm not allowed to delete anything I've ever written.
Oh wow, and I like that. That's a good policy, so that you can be accountable and responsible after the work has been written, or if you pause in it. Now, how do you handle writer's block?
um for me, the way I can get past writer's block, the easiest way, is to find out what is causing it. I'm very analytical in my thinking, and if I can figure out, okay, I'm having writer's block today because my room is messy, or because I got a lot of appointments coming up, or something. And if I clear those, and usually that's, if I can identify the source, the writer's block clears.
Okay. Now, inside this Callum Walker series, were any of these things that you wrote about emotionally challenged or cathartic to write?
Yes. My in my third especially my third book, there was my poor character was being tortured, and it was very much out of my comfort zone. I had to dive. I have an interest in psychology, and I really had to do a lot more research with that book and stuff, and just see, okay, I want to express this, but how do I do that? And what would happen, and what would be the real response and stuff, and then kind of integrating that into my own experiences with things. Not necessarily, I've never been tortured, but my character is, and how would he respond? And I can imagine that. But I wanted it to be realistic so that people wouldn't think, oh, this is just imagined. I wanted to put a lot more depth into it.
Okay, I like that. More depth and more perspective.
Yeah.
Now, in fantasy worlds, there's reality that gets struck in our writing or in any type of creative content creation or whatever. So, inside the fantasy world in the Colin Walker series, what is one thing that's actually part of your reality?
I am a big fan of medieval times, and I don't know why, but for me, magic and medieval is kind of synonymous. So, if you have this realm of magical beings, there's no need for them to have technology. So I placed them in more of a medieval type realm, and based it, and like did my research and based off like what kind of materials did they use, what kind of fabrics did they sew with, what were their buildings made out of, what did they eat, and those kind of things. So I'm trying to base those as much in reality as possible.
Okay. Now, may I ask, was a book written because it was one when you did medieval? It got me thinking about it. Did you ever read the book The Once and Future King?
No.
The Once and Future King is a book by oh, hold on, let me not mess up on that. Once and Future, I thought it was C.S.L. Lewis, but let me make sure. I read it in school, and it was about King Arthur, and it's where you've heard of the story, The Sword and Stone.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sorry, it was by T.H. White, The Once and Future King.
Yeah.
And when he said that, it kind of made me think about it. I'm like, wow, she must have read that book and have probably taken a few things from that. So I will encourage you at some point, if you got some free time, read the Once and Future King, because it tells the story of King Arthur, it tells the story about Merlin,
Yeah.
uh, Guinevere, and Sir Lancelot.
Hmm.
So, some different little things there. So nice little tie in there.
Yeah.
Now,
I grew up hearing the Merlin tales and I was always intrigued by them and that history that goes along with it. There's also another character that really inspired Callum Walker as well, was the Odd Thomas from the Odd Thomas series by Dean Koontz.
okay, whoa, okay, got you. So yeah, you're heavy into your reading and
Mhm.
writing. Now let me ask you this: if you go through a standard day after you publish the fifth book, you go
Mhm.
through a standard day, what is it like to self-publish? Like, do you have to market? Do you have to strategize how you're going to do things? What do you do after that fifth book comes out if you're doing it digital or print? How do you market that and advertise it?
Well, the first thing I did is I don't know what the word marketing means, honestly. Like so I went away with that word and I changed it to showing the world I exist. And that changes my mindset and gives me a different perspective to see things from. And then I can use that to, okay, now how do I tell the world I exist? Because it's a lot easier than saying, how do I market? It's a big, broad umbrella term, but showing the world I exist is more specific. And so I approached, so there's Indigo Chapters store in Canada. It's like the Barnes and Noble of Canada. And I got my
Yes.
books as a consign on in their store as a consignment. And once it gets up on the system, I found out that it goes across Canada and you can bring your books to any store across Canada and do book signings. And I love that because I love telling people about, my passion and stuff like that. I've also tried to make a presence on Instagram, Facebook, made a website, make my books available and tell people where they are and where they can find them, and then give them little hints from my books. I also recently, last year, I did one, and then I did it again this year. It's an RPG-a-thon, so it's a fantasy gaming event. And I
Okay.
was a vendor there and I loved it. The people that come there, it's like that's their people. That's my people. So they're all in that fantasy mindset and they're coming there to see things. And a lot of them came back the next year to buy my fourth book. So I was happy
Whoa.
about that.
Okay, so you found a market. I like that. And the reason that that's a gem inside this episode is because you have helped someone when they hear this or they watch it or whatever they do with it or read it. Because that's one thing, too, I got to tell the audience. Some people actually read the transcript, which is wild. I mean, but you do what you do, right? Now, outside of all of this, let's go into the Jennifer side of things.
Mhm.
When you're done with the writing, you're done with the reading, you're done with every literary device you can do for the day. How do you end your day?
I like to read. I never did read before. Like, I mean, I started writing because I was having a hard time finding things that I wanted to read. But once I've been out there in the world, like forcing myself to get out there and meet other readers and stuff, my to be read list has grown exponentially. This is just two of three bookcases that I've had to buy to house my books, and it's not even full yet because I've got a bunch coming. So I'm getting back into reading, and I find it really relaxing at night.
Okay, and that's incredible that you do that. So reading and writing stay with you 24/7.
Mhm.
It's never a dull moment for you.
No, my mind's
Now,
always. If I didn't write, I
now,
wouldn't sleep.
now does this take you away from other like do you watch television or movies? Does any of that?
Not so much anymore. Maybe TikTok, maybe YouTube clips, shorts. I don't really have a lot of time to sit down. I have a hard time sitting still anyway. I do make time for my family. I've got two young boys, and I do make time for going for walks and trying to be healthy and different interests that I have. I'm taking piano lessons. I love airsoft and karate. I want to do all those things too. So I have to block time off for those and budget my time.
Okay, and I understand that, and that's being very responsible. So before we close this episode out, what I'd like you to do for us, Miss Shaw, is give us your mission statement.
Keep on writing. Whether you think you're good or not, keep on writing and don't feel shy to share. There's books out there that are cringeworthy, and if they've been published, and if I can do it, I'm sure you can as well.
Okay. Now, if there was a billboard in Ottawa, one in Montreal, one in Quebec, or well, let's say Montreal, not Quebec, one in Calgary, Alberta, what would that billboard say about you and your works?
Uh, I would say lifelong author and dreamer.
Okay. And I want to take a moment and thank you, Ms. Shaw, for coming on the show and letting us know about your journey and how you prescribe in writing and reading and taking the time to be creative in your space. Because a lot of people, once they find out that they have certain conditions and diseases or different things that happen to them, they sulk. They get in those things and they decide that, hey, I'm going to live in this and I'm not going to achieve my full optimacy. You optimized yourself in a manner that works for you and that creates these amazing things. So let me spin it back over to you real quick. What else would you tell the world about your autism being neurodivergent?
I've tried really hard not to look at it as a disability. Writing is my special interest. And for anybody who knows much about neurodivergency, we all have a special interest, something that we devote 100% of our time, 120% of our time sometimes, to. Writing happens to be mine. Just because I have autism, just because I struggle socially, just because I have dyslexia, doesn't mean I can't write. It just means that those things that would come naturally to most people, I have to learn, and I have to actively learn. Things like making eye contact, things like talking, things like budgeting your time. I have to actively learn how to do that because it doesn't come naturally.
Okay. And I thank you for that. So, on that note, in closing, she is Jennifer Shaw, and I am J.R. Sparrow, host of West Virginia and Commonplace. And we're going to let the outro take care of you guys. But one other thing, the after podcast effect is the people that actually go read the show notes. Inside the show notes, there will be links in every way that you can meet and greet Jennifer Shaw across the internet. And always remember this, when you read a book and you enjoy the book, let the author know. In life, we don't give people their flowers and we don't let people know that we approve and love their accomplishments. It's a level of acceptance that we all strive for. So please, after you read her books, let her know how she's doing. And if you do have constructive criticism on certain things about a character, make sure it's proper and prim and in a way that is formatted that will show respect to her and show respect from yourself in what you're saying. That's what makes the world go round. So I'm JR and she's Jennifer Shaw, and we are out of here.
Thank you so much.